I was the disappointment of the family until I became the one everyone needed. I used to think disappointment was loud. I imagined it would come with arguments, raised voices, slammed doors, and angry words. But I learned something much harder. Disappointment can be quiet. It can live in silence, in avoided eye contact, in forced smiles, and in the way people stop asking about your dreams because they've already decided you don't have any. That was my place in my family. I wasn't the rebel. I wasn't the addict. I wasn't the troublemaker. I was simply the one who didn't become anything impressive fast enough. At family gatherings, my cousins spoke proudly about promotions, engagements, new homes, and future plans. Their voices were loud and confident. Their laughter filled the room. And when it was my turn to speak, the room would always change. Someone would cough. Someone would sip their drink. Someone would glance at their phone. And then someone would ask softly, "So, what are you doing these days?" That question didn't mean curiosity, it meant comparison. And my answer was always smaller than my heart felt. "I'm figuring things out." What I wanted to say was, "I'm trying to survive in a world that doesn't see me yet." But I swallowed those words and smiled. At some point, my father stopped asking entirely. My mother started praying louder than she ever spoke to me. My siblings stopped inviting me to important events because I wouldn't feel comfortable anyway. They thought they were protecting me. They were erasing me. I began to erase myself too. I moved into a tiny apartment with flickering hallway lights and paper-thin walls. At night, I could hear my neighbors arguing, laughing, living, while I sat in silence, wondering how I had become invisible inside my own life. I worked night shifts, slept during the day, and lived on cheap food that barely kept me standing. My phone stayed quiet. No one asked how I was doing. One night, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the dark window, I whispered, "What am I even here for?" And for the first time, I didn't feel sorry for myself. I felt awake. I realized no one was coming to save me, and strangely, that felt freeing. So I started over, quietly, not loudly, not dramatically, not with announcements. I started with my phone, free courses, tutorials, articles, digital tools, business basics, technology skills, organization systems, marketing, data, planning, management. I studied in silence while the city slept. My eyes burned, my hands cramped, my mind raced, but for the first time in years I felt useful, even if no one else could see it yet. Then I started taking freelance jobs, small ones, cheap ones, invisible ones, jobs people didn't respect. But I treated every task like it was building my future. Because it was. I failed sometimes. I doubted myself often, but I never quit. Months passed, then a year, then another. My apartment got better, my confidence grew, my skills sharpened. I stopped explaining myself, I stopped apologizing, I stopped trying to prove I belonged. And then life shifted. My father's business began to fail, my brother lost his job, my sister's marriage collapsed, my mother's health declined. The family that once overlooked me was suddenly afraid. And suddenly, my phone started ringing. They didn't call to catch up. They called because they were desperate. They needed someone who understood systems, someone who could organize chaos, someone who could think clearly under pressure, someone who could rebuild what was breaking. They needed the person I had quietly become. I helped restructure the business. I built budgets. I negotiated contracts. I organized medical schedules. I solved problems no one else wanted to face. And slowly, the tone of their voices changed. They no longer spoke down to me. They listened. They asked for advice. They waited for my answers. One evening, my father sat beside me in silence, then said quietly, "I didn't see you, but I should have." My mother hugged me longer than usual. My siblings stopped comparing and started learning. That night, alone in my apartment, I cried, not from pain, from release. I realized something powerful. I was never behind. I was just early in becoming who I was meant to be. Sometimes the world calls you a failure because it can't yet recognize your future. But one day, everything they overlooked becomes exactly what they need. And when that day comes, you won't have to explain yourself